It is the Sophie Martin Show on New HD, here with my very good friend, Diana from Trope. So, Diana, what was life like growing up in Canada?
Life in Canada was cold, as the rumor does have it. There was a lot of snow. I'm from the East Coast, Montreal, so yeah, I got really cold in the winters. But actually, like Montreal, when I was living there, was felt like a very buoyant city. Like there was a really big nightlife, and we were able to kind of sneak into bars like before we were old enough to, and didn't get caught. um, and yeah, it was actually fun growing up there. It was a pretty a fairly normal childhood on the external from the outside. Yeah.
What made you cover the Tears for Fears song Shout?
We actually personally, I always loved Tears for Fears. I grew up listening to Everybody Wants to Rule the World and Mad World, and I love the depth in their lyrics, and I knew about Shout as well, and that's when our guitar player and producer was interested in covering the song, and I took a close listen to it and just loved the messaging. And this was decided like it wasn't decided super recently. It was decided when we were writing the album and putting the finishing touches like a couple of years back, and so it didn't even have the same message as we feel it has now, given the state of the world. Um, but yeah, it just like what I love about Tears for Fears is that with the way they write songs, it doesn't matter to me anyways. I feel like it doesn't matter what you're going through in your life or what the world is going through. There's always some kind of relevance, and I think that's what's great about them is as songwriters. And so it connected to me. The song connected to me in different ways, and then the way that we were kind of that it was being arranged up with all the instrumentation and stuff. Really, it felt like it fit Trope. At first, we weren't thinking of covering it in Trope, but then as like the arrangement progressed, it seemed like it would actually really work on the album, even though it's more straight up than our other kind of more windy or progressive songs.
Did you shoot your music video during the pandemic, and how hard was it?
We did not actually. We shot it before the pandemic. It would have been very, very, very hard if we shot it during the pandemic because we actually had a crew of about 40 people working on that music video. We shot it out in Vancouver in the Georgia post office building, which at the time was being used for TV shows. Like were shooting The Flash there and other shows. And actually, the cinematographer from The Flash and Some Kind of Monster, which is Metallica's documentary, his name is Stuart Welland. He shot the music video and brought along his crew. And yeah, so we were able to huddle at times when needed, even though we're not doing that in the video per se. But uh, yeah, it was before this whole insanity. But we are shooting our next music video during this process, and with musicians in Trope in 3 different countries. It's a really different and interesting experience, and just having like organizing everyone's shoots in different locations is a bit crazy, but it's got to do it. So yeah.
Have you ever done a live performance? And if so, are you looking forward to getting back out on stage when it is safe to do so?
Oh man, yeah. We have performed live. We've performed live so far in Canada, in the States, LA, in many different venues around there, and in Europe, both in Romania and Bulgaria. And we were meant to tour actually before this whole crazy thing happened. We were meant to tour in Europe, and so like a couple of our tours got canceled because of the pandemic. So we're definitely really really excited to get back out there. That's just the way that we communicate most clearly, I guess. In this whole realm of what we're doing.
What have been some of your favorite people and projects to work with?
Uh, that's a good question. I guess I mean, I unbiasedly love our Trope team, so that's obvious, I guess. And yeah, I love working on this music just because of its just because of the exploratory nature of it. It's not just it's I guess all the different time signatures and stuff like feel like they add different layers to the music, and I kind of feel like personally I can get lost in the writing process, you know, and find different things out and different melodies that I hadn't heard at first, or it kind of breaks your pattern way of thinking. But I also loved outside of Trope working on recently on a song for the Netflix animation feature The Willoughbys, and I'm kind of like part serious person, part cartoon. So the cartoon side of me just like love that. And I worked with the director Chris Pert in the voice booth for like a year, and we were just kind of brainstorming ideas for the singing character that Alessia Cara plays, and the song that she sings. So it was a really cool experience to get to work on that song with a bunch of people, herself included, and collaborate, you know, in that space, and then get to watch the movie and then see the song in it, and how like everything got built around it and how powerful it ended up, how it came to life, you know, and yeah, so that was really fun.
Did you ever release any albums? And if so, which one will be next?
We're actually set to release our debut album very shortly. We'll be announcing the date in the next week, actually. So, but yes, we will be releasing it in 2021, very soon, and it's called Eleutheromania. That's Tropes. That's our first our debut album.
Do you have a favorite genre of music?
Ooh, funny enough, no. I don't know if that's funny, but no, I don't. I love, what do I love in music? I love frequency, if that makes sense and doesn't sound too like kind of esoteric or vague. And what I mean by that is, I think like when I listen to Nina Simone or Jeff Buckley sing, they're both artists that I can listen to over and over and over and over again. Like I've actually listened to each of them independently, I think for 5 hours in a row, just like while I'm working and you have your headphones in, right? I can, and I think it's again because of where they're coming from, and that's kind of hard to really describe or define, really. It's just maybe a feeling I get, and it's not even a matter of like the melodies they're using or the type of voice they have or the genre. It's just where they're coming from. Like I just never get tired of that. And I really love all genres, though, to answer that question. Like, I mean, I grew up with such a mixed bag of genres, like from R&B to the alt rock movement of the 90s. I loved pop music at the time too. I listened to a bit of classical music even. I never got totally into jazz or country. I'm not that much in. I was into hip hop for a little bit, but that I'm not. I'm just not as versed or um, uh, like into those genres. But I mean, a good song is a good song. Like there are the hip hop artists that I adore, you know. So it just really depends. Yeah, I don't know. I think anything that feels like it was crafted and that's awesome, or if it just has like a really fun beat, you know, it could be anything. It could be metal music, or even recently I've been listening to a bit of Dua Lipa's album, which is like a disco record, you know, so it's like totally the other side of like the spectrum of what we're doing in Trope, you know. So it depends if like if something's well written and it feels like it's performed like with some kind of I don't know, heart, you know, I can get into
What
that.
was it like to write the song Lambs?
That was the first song that we started working on, actually. That was like our first release as well. So it was, that's a good question. It was a lot of things. It was a bit of a mixture of like, it was therapeutic, and it was also very new. Like for me personally, I'd never written in like odd time signatures either. So it was like also an exercise in learning. And yeah, I got to pull up lyrics and feelings and just ideas from like years ago that I'd been bottling up and hadn't expressed yet, or hadn't found like an outlet to express it in. And Lambs became that for me. It was like the nucleus of the rest of the album, which was just like a buildup of things that I needed to get out of my chest, you know? And so Lambs is always kind of special from that standpoint for us, because it's like it's the baby, you know, it's the first one, and I still love that song. So and it seems like it's resonated with some people as well, which is awesome, you know.
So how did you pursue a career in entertainment?
How? The cheesy answer is against all odds. Yeah, but literally that's kind of well, maybe not all odds. I mean, there's people who have it way way harder, and like, you know, there's I don't think it's ever easy for anyone pursuing a career in entertainment. There's just a lot of stuff that goes with that, you know, that isn't it's not a clear line. Like, I think there was many reasons for why I did it. I'd finished my degree in Montreal, and in engineering of all things, which is like kind of like almost polar opposite of like of like music, even though it's kind of linked in the mathy sense, one can say. But yeah, and I think just doing something, I think I did that for, I wouldn't say the wrong reasons, but I finished engineering just like to prove to certain people and myself that I could do it. And I usually do things as acts of rebellion personally. So I mean, because I find that in my early years I was told no a lot, right? So I wasn't encouraged in almost anything that I've kind of wanted to do. So which is fine, because everyone has their journey, you know. And then and that motivated me, you know. So with music, it was always something that I was very passionate about. And I think from doing something that you're really not passionate about, you kind of get a sense for who you are. And I feel like that in life too. Like sometimes when you do the thing that you actually don't think is suited for you, or you don't really want to do, but you might do for different reasons, out of fear or out of pressure or whatever it is, sometimes they kind of direct you or illuminate like the path of you knowing what you don't want to, okay, like what you do want. So this is a very windy answer, but I guess the point is that after engineering, I decided that I knew what I didn't want, and I'd always known what I wanted. So I just committed to that, you know, and it's been an amazing and definitely non-linear path since then. And it's been very challenging and way harder than engineering. And I probably only recommend it to people who really know they love it, but it's just been worth it. I frankly got to a point where when you keep eliminating things that don't make sense out of your life, you kind of end up with a very clear picture of what you can do. You know what I mean? And I'm at a point now where it's kind of the only creative endeavors, like whether it be performance, writing, playing music, even acting, are the only things that I feel like I can do and want to do. So yeah, it's been a journey though. It's not like, you know, it's not one of those stories where it's like you grew up and your parents were like, yeah, and then you just went and did it. You know, it took a second, but I'm very grateful. Like I feel like it wakes me up in the morning, and it makes me passionate. It makes me want to face days, even amid some of the craziness, you know.
In violent times, you shouldn't have to sell your soul. In black and white, they really ought to know. Those one-track minds that took you for a working boy, goodbye. You shouldn't have to jump for joy. You shouldn't have to jump for joy. Let it all out. These are the things I can do without. Come on, I'm talking to you. Come on. They gave you life, and in return you gave them hell, as cold as ice. I hope we live to tell the tale. I hope we live to tell the tale. Let it all out. These are the things I can do without. Come on, I'm talking to you. Come on, shout. I'm talking to you. Shout. I'm talking to you. Shout. I'm talking to you. Come on. Shout. I'm talking to you. Shout. I'm talking to you. Shout. I'm talking to you.